All right. Hello. Welcome, welcome. It's 7 o'clock. Where are you? You are at the Greatness Game. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. 7 o'clock date right here. Glass of wine, margarita, little cheesecake, maybe a cup of tea. So great to see you guys. And today's topic is actually something that is really near and dear to my heart because I had to learn it the hard way. And I'm sure many of you have learned it the hard way. So if you don't know me, my name is Dina Patton. I'm the owner of Greatness Training and author of The Greatness Game. And my mission is to help people live and lead from their greatness. And I love being with you guys every night. And today, I don't know what you guys did today, but we got out and actually went and had a little picnic. Just got some fresh air, went to a park. No one was there. It was awesome. And we just had a little picnic and came home. So that was our little adventure for the day. So tonight we are talking about deal breakers. And this is a subject that, you know, we don't really get taught, especially as females, we don't get taught this. We don't sit around and talk about boundaries. How's your boundaries? You know, what are your boundaries? What are my boundaries? And deal breakers. And so really the tricky part of boundaries and deal breakers is the duality. So the duality of trusting others and standing up for yourself, right? My favorite word, and, right? There's the and sign, because I really truly believe that keeps us in balance. So otherwise, you know, we never trust anybody and keep everybody out, and we use our boundaries as a wall, which we don't want to do. We want to stand on our boundaries, have them help us protect us and help us have discernment, but not, you know, make a big wall against the world. So we want to have that duality of trusting others and trusting and standing for ourselves. So this is going for ourselves. So our own deal breakers, like I will never do this, or I will never, the certain, you know, there's someone I worked with, and she said, I will get 3 jobs before I ever go on. I will never go on welfare, right? I will work 3 jobs before it was just her boundary of like, I will never use the system, right? So that's some one piece of boundaries is ourself, and how we hold ourselves accountable to certain things. So there's the self boundaries. Then the 2 biggest places that we really want to have boundaries is in relationships and in our work. So where we work, why we work there, not only choosing where we work, but why do we choose to work with them? So it's important to have work boundaries, right? And, you know, having, again, that boundary of like, I will never get involved with someone at work, you know, those kind of things. So 2 stories I want to tell you around work and one around dating and marriage. And that is this, is when I was working, I had my first business in New York City in the 90s. And I really kind of never knew, definitely didn't know about boundaries in self. I just didn't get that I had permission to have certain boundaries. But in work, I certainly didn't know that as far as an entrepreneur. So I was working really hard. I said yes to everybody. So if they wanted to work with me, they wanted to pay me, I would say yes. And what that led to was 16-hour days, 14-hour days, you know, 12-hour days. And I was working myself to death, but in my mind, I was just working late. And I didn't really call myself on those boundaries. And I didn't really see how I was giving myself up and giving my power up, and really had no discernment. I said yes to everybody. And that is an entrepreneur myth that a lot of people learn that lesson the hard way. They say yes to everybody versus knowing who they're really willing to serve, you know, and who they are there to serve. And so that was a big one. This is why at 27, I had a minor stroke and it derailed my life for probably 6 months. And so had to learn how to speak again. I actually was very blessed that I sold my business and was able to go to the next step, which then a year later led me to coaching. And I've been coaching ever since for 20 years. So it was my blessed interruption and I will be thankful for it, but it still sucked. And it still was rooted in me not honoring the boundaries in my work, in my business, saying this is, these are the hours, this is how I am working and taking care of myself. So that, having that self-care is now a crucial part of my business and how I coach leaders, is that you have to have self-care in your career. And then of course, the part that I really love to encourage people is boundaries and deal breakers inside of dating and marriage. And so for me, this was a lesson that I had to learn. And this is the pattern that I was seeing in my 20s, that I definitely had my ideas of the deal breakers. That I didn't call them deal breakers though. They're like my top wish list of what I wanted in a husband and a man. But what happened is I would start dating someone and I would be a month or 2 months into the relationship and way far into, liking them and being involved with them. And then I learned that he didn't have one of my deal breakers. And I was too far in and I would, use an excuse. I would say, oh, well, it's fine. He has the other 4, and I would compromise. And we compromise on our deal breakers and our boundaries all the time. And then we wonder, why did I get derailed? Well, we got derailed because we didn't honor our boundaries and our deal breakers. So I saw this pattern keep happening and I'm like, wait a minute. I have these things that I have to have. I know that I want and I have to have in someone I'm married. But I'm finding out way too far into the relationship. So I have to figure this out. Like, how do I inquire with someone on date 1, date 2? And so the more I thought about it, I really realized that this is the barrier, like getting clear. And do they have these 5 things in date 1 or 2 and not going on that date 3 until I know it? And I was like, oh my gosh, how is this going to work? How am I going to figure out how to weave this into a conversation? And so it doesn't feel like an interrogation. So what I did was I created a game, and I use games as something that, I'm going to either win or lose about. And I just go and I play full out. And I thought, I'm going to make a game around this. And so it was called 30 Dates in 30 Days. And what it was at the time, Match.com had just launched. And I thought, I'm going to get a different date every single day, coffee date with a guy every single day. And by the 30th date, I'm going to know how to integrate a conversation about, weave it gently into the conversation about my deal breakers. And so I knew my 5 deal breakers. I went on this quest of 30 dates in 30 days. And let me tell you, the first 15 were horrible, total interrogation. I did not know how to integrate this, my questions around these 5 things. And it was just horrible. But I will tell you this, by the 30th one, I got it. I got how to just bring it up such in a way that it didn't feel like an interrogation. And I really understood, not only did I understand how to bring it up in conversation in a great way, but I really got the power of my deal breakers, that my stand for myself and my worth. And that was the cherry on top. You know, we have to have that self-esteem to hold deal breakers and boundaries. Otherwise, we compromise on them and we break them, and then we get so derailed. So what was great was about a year later, I actually moved back to Phoenix after 8.5 years in New York City, and soon met my husband. And by our second date, of course, because I had been practicing this, I really knew how to integrate it into our conversation. And the rest is history. You know, we've been together 17 years. So one of the biggest things around dating, around being single, whether you're divorced or you're single, is knowing your worth, knowing your deal breakers, integrating them up front in the conversation so you don't go into that relationship and find out 2 months later or 6 months later that they were not a match for you, not a match for your values, not a match for your deal breakers. And I'm not saying it's easy, but it is a very intentional greatness game. And I feel like every girl should be aware of this, because, you know, we're really like, oh, is he cute? Oh, is he nice? You know, and he might have these things, right? I mean, boys and relationships can be very derailing. And we want a healthy person with a healthy person. That's what makes a healthy marriage. And so this is, I think, a big part of a healthy relationship is knowing your deal breakers and having that duality of standing for yourself, but also trusting them and coming together. So the greatness game is all about your mental toughness, your leadership, and your greatness games in your life. So if you know someone who is either an entrepreneur who's working way too hard, they're throwing those, you know, those boundaries out the window, they have no self-care, please tag them in this, because I know that they will get value in coming back to center, putting some self-care, putting some boundaries around your business. You know, especially right now, I've been working from home for 24 years. I always have a second office that I go to or have meetings with or my workshops at, but primarily I work from home, and you have to have boundaries at home. You know, if you're not, if you don't have a home office, you know, at least you have a space, whether it's in your bedroom or your dining room, it is your space. That is so important about working from home, is having those boundaries. And when you're on working hours, whether that is 2 hours or that is 6 hours, that you focus on your work. And it's not about doing laundry or dishes, and having those boundaries, those kind of work boundaries, because otherwise everything starts to collapse, and it's very hard to work when you're in a home environment. So having those boundaries of saying, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to close the door, and when, you know, maybe you have some sign on the on the doorknob that's like you're working, or a sign that says working hours, and that's the family's time to not bother you, you know. So boundaries around your work, boundaries around your self-care, boundaries around your dating life. It creates healthiness, and so that you don't get consumed in that thing, and it creates that duality. All right. So that is the topic for tonight. Hopefully it will help you, because your future needs you. Your past doesn't. So whatever boundaries, mistakes that you have made in your past, let it go. Know better, do better. That is one of my favorite things from Maya Angelou, is know better, do better. You know, the moment I have a piece of information that makes me better and I start to implement it, it makes me better. Know better, do better. And don't worry about how you did it in the past. So hopefully that helped. The actions for tonight, the homework, the actions to think about are, what are the boundaries? There's two things. What are the boundaries that you need to implement right now, working from home or in your dating life or in your business? And so what is maybe one or two boundaries that you need to implement? Or maybe there's one or two boundaries that were in place that you're compromising on. Get those back in place. So think about that. Hopefully that helped. I love being with you guys. See you tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, let me see. I don't know if I got my, you know what, tomorrow night is, you know what? I don't have my subject for tomorrow night. It's going to be a mystery. It's going to be a mystery tomorrow night. Maybe we'll just do some what do I want to say? Some breathing, right? So just coming back to center and doing some like spirit-filled, heart-filled stuff for a few minutes on Sunday night. So cheers to your greatness. See you next time. Be well. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Thank you for joining me on The Greatness Game. Bye, guys.